Hey, how's your stress today? I want to talk about adaptogenic botanicals that help us adapt, also known as adaptogens. And adaptogenic herbs work on multiple pathways that help us sustain homeostasis. There are 9 major pathways where these adaptogens are working. We're going to talk about one of those today. And we spoke about one of those in the previous video, the nitric oxide. Think of adaptogens as a group of botanicals that help increase our resistance to physical and emotional stress. And this can include mental exhaustion, and botanicals can help enhance attention once some of these performance areas have actually been decreased. On a physical level, we can see this in something called the forced swim test to exhaustion, where we are able to take an organism, usually a rat in a rat study, and put it in a swimming container and measure the amount of time before it comes to exhaustion. And adaptogens can dramatically and significantly increase their ability to do this. Increased tolerance to stress by adaptogens is associated with something called molecular chaperones, heat shock proteins, and these heat shock proteins can actually help repair cellular proteins when the organism is under physical load. And as I mentioned, there are 9 major pathways, so we're just going to talk about one of them today. As we age, the quality and shape of the proteins in our cells starts to decrease. Protein is like a molecular machine, and the molecular machines have specific shapes. So think of a saw or a drill bit, for example, or a hammer. They have a specific shape. And if the saw blade becomes dull or the teeth become crooked, that impairs the function of the tool. If the drill bit is crooked, it can't do its job. Or if the hammer, for example, has a broken handle, it can't do its job. With proteins in our cells, when the shapes of the proteins become disfigured, they don't work properly, and that can contribute to complex neurodegenerative diseases, cardiovascular diseases, and impacts of aging as we progress through the years. And when these changes in proteins happen, heat shock proteins can jump into action and help limit damage and also repair and recover damage, thus protecting our cells' integrity and their function. Alzheimer's disease and Parkinson's are example, as is Huntington's disease, where protein misfigurations cause problems. All of these old tools get kind of thrown in a junk pile inside of the cells, where they create these plaques or protein tangles. And heat shock proteins can be very influential. If you're familiar with Star Wars or The Mandalorian, the Jawas or the Ugnaughts will scavenge for broken down drones or even spacecraft that are malfunctioning, and they gather and repair these machines and get them back into proper functioning. This is kind of what heat shock proteins are doing in our cells. They prevent and remove protein aggregates, the tangles, so to speak, and also can repair proteins. There's a second way that heat shock proteins work. Heat shock proteins assist lysosomes, which are like the cell's garbage disposal units. They're kind of like a garbage disposal unit and a stomach at the same time, where the lysosome will gobble up these misshapen protein or cellular debris, digest them, break them down, where the components can then either be recycled or released from the cells, thus clearing out the waste products. As I mentioned, adaptogens hit multiple homeostatic pathways simultaneously, And each of the adaptogens that we discuss is hitting multiple pathways at the same time for additive and synergistic protection. Some of the adaptogens that specifically affect heat shock proteins include ginseng, one of my favorites, schizandra berries and seeds. Also, cannabis can be influential because of its effect on heat shock proteins through the endocannabinoid system, and anandamide affecting heat shock proteins, and rhodiola, another one of my favorite herbs. So I just like to thank you for listening. I'm Dr. Jake Felice. You can find me and my videos at Sweetwater Holistic and sweetwaterholistic.com. I really appreciate you listening, and thanks so much. In the next video, we'll be discussing another major adaptogenic pathway that helps maintain homeostasis in our body. Really appreciate you listening and looking forward to seeing you next time. Cheers.